Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I have with me Ben Baker, and let me tell you a little bit about Ben. Ben has been helping companies and the people within them understand, codify, and communicate their unique value to others for more than a quarter of a century. He is the president of Your Brand Marketing, an employee engagement consultancy specializing in helping companies communicate more effectively inside their organizations. He is the author of 2 books, Powerful Personal Brands, a hands-on guide to understanding yours, and Leading Beyond a Crisis, a conversation about what's next, and the host of iHeart and Spotify's syndicated Your Living Brand Live show, with more than 300 episodes behind him. Today, I thought we'd venture in that pool of water that everybody tries to not go into, and that is brand storytelling and how important both of those things are to your business. Please join me in welcoming my guest, Ben Baker. Hey, Ben.
Vicki, thank you for having me on the show. I am excited about this. We had a great conversation offline. I can't wait to take this on the mic and see how we can make things better for your listeners.
Awesome. So I always start out with a very easy question. You don't have to study or anything for this.
Worried.
Where do you live? Where do you call home?
You know what? I'm above the 49th parallel. I live in this small little city called Vancouver, BC. 2010 Olympics, right on the West Coast. And I'm originally from Minneapolis, but I've lived around the world. But Vancouver's always been home.
Yeah, I got to go to a Toastmaster convention in Vancouver and enjoyed myself immensely. Definitely want to go back there and go over to Victoria.
That's where my alma mater is. I went to the University of Victoria.
I saw that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So we gave you, the audience, just a little brief intro as to who you are from a professional basis, but I always like to kind of ask for that backstory of, what has this journey been like? You didn't come out of the womb being an entrepreneur doing brand marketing. So take us on that journey of what it was like, from the college days that led you to where you are today.
Well, the surprising thing is I almost did come out of the womb as an entrepreneur. I mean, my dad was always an entrepreneur. My dad, had 2 unsuccessful businesses and 1 wildly successful business, as the story goes. And thank God the wildly successful business was the last one. But I learned from the time I was 7, 8, 9 years old what entrepreneurship was and got to be part of it, because I was one of those kids that was expected to stay at the dinner table, that was expected to learn what was going on and what things were about. And my best friend's father was also an entrepreneur. So, from a very early age, entrepreneurship was something that I always knew that I loved, something that I always saw the benefit of, and something that I always knew I was going to do sooner or later. My university degree has absolutely nothing to do with what I do. My degree is in international relations. I spent a year at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem doing international politics and Middle Eastern terrorism. So, I have a little bit of an understanding of what goes on in the Middle East these days.
Yeah.
I spent the 4 years at the University of Victoria running mainframe. So I did mainframe computer. I was involved in listservs and Fortran and all sorts of things. I was in the high tech sales for a number of years, but I finally got into communication and marketing about the time I got married, because about the time I got married, I was literally the guy in the air 200 plus days a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was George Clooney. It was my job to sit there and say, okay, there's a problem in Phoenix. Guess what? You're heading to Phoenix this morning. And I loved it until we got married. And, about a year into doing this was a divorce waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And so I went up to my boss and I said, hey, listen, double my salary to pay for the divorce or cut my travel days in half. He says, well, we're not willing to do either. Why don't we buy you out? I said, done. He says, what do you mean? I says, now it's just details. And we hashed it out and came up with a settlement that worked for both of us. And I walked out the door and walked onto the golf course for about 6 months and met a guy in the direct mail business.
Yeah.
Went to go work for him, and the world just fell, into my lap.
Nice. When you were talking about the early days and sitting around the table, maybe with your family, and so many people their lives aren't as entrepreneurs, for me, for 40 years, I was in the regular corporate spin, and a lot of times your parents didn't talk about business. That a lot of kids don't even know what the heck their dads or moms do. But I know that when I talk to people that have been from families of entrepreneurs, it's like a training ground for you almost. That the parents share things because they know how important it is to understand these things and how you really can be successful.
Oh yeah, I learned how to drive a forklift at 9 years old. I was pulling stuff off, third story of the racks at 9 years old.
Yeah.
So I was expected to work. I was expected that it was weekends, it was after school, but I certainly wasn't given full-time work. But from the time I was 9, 10, 11 years old, I was put to work like everybody else was.
Yeah. But great. And look how it has helped you, right?
Exactly. I didn't turn out too badly.
So I read on your website, you say you believe that storytelling is not a trend. It is a way to engage audiences of all types now and into the future. And I am right there with you on that one. So please elaborate for the audience about why you are so passionate about this.
When we tell somebody something, they forget it. They don't pay attention. Think of it, I tell people, think of it like a billboard at the side of the highway. How many times do you rush past that billboard and never see it, let alone are cognizant about what's actually on that billboard, until one day you are. And one day, for some reason, you look right instead of left. You're stopped, in traffic. Somebody pulls out in front of you and you have to jam on the brakes and you look up. Whatever it is, all of a sudden you pay attention to it because you're ready.
Yeah.
And stories enable you to tell something over and over again until somebody's actually ready to listen in a way that's relevant for them. And a story enables you to use different analogies, different references, different tone of voice, different, cadence, different length of story to be able to make the thing relevant to the audience that's in front of you. You don't tell the same story to an engineer that you do to a CEO.
Yeah.
The engineers want all the hay in the barn. They want the graphs, they want the backup, they want the data sheets, they want everything with it, and they need to know it all, and that's great. The CEO wants to sit there and say, okay, what is this going to do for us?
What's the outcome?
What's the risk involved? And how much pain is this going to cause our organization to get from where we are to where we need to be?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to tell a different story to different people to be able to get them to listen to it, understand it, internalize it, recall it, and retell it.
Yeah. You have to touch that emotional chord too.
Absolutely.
They have to feel the pain. And as you say, the pain is going to be different for the different audiences.
And we have to understand, how do we tell the story from their point of view?
Yeah.
You're not the hero of the story. They are.
Yeah.
How do you make them the hero of the story? How do you get them to sit there and say, I want to go on this journey with you. I'm grabbing my lance. I'm grabbing my sword. I'm mounting my steed, and I'm gonna go right off to the sunset, right beside you on this one.
Yeah.
And you can only do that when people can sit there and say, I see how it benefits me.
Yeah.
I see how I'm going to be the hero of this, how this gets me from where I am to where I want to be.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful thing. And it's something that takes a lot of skill, a lot of patience, a lot of listening, a lot of empathy, and being able to sit there and say, do I have this person's attention? And if not, why?
Yeah. Yeah. So good. I remember I was on a project team where we were trying to get something from our clients, and they were very large clients, but it was going to take work on their part. And for us to go and just say, hey, you have to do this for us, they're going to say, okay, well, there's my list and it isn't on my list. So we spend time just asking them questions, telling about where they are in their business and their technology and things like that, because it was a technology we needed. And then we spent time just telling them about what we've done and how we've done things. And then I just showed them a 7-minute video, and it did everything I needed to do in just that 7 minutes, because all of the things that they spent an hour telling me describe their pain and their needs. And this 7-minute video made them say, oh my God, that's not my packages, is it? And from there, they would do anything I wanted. And it was the power of story that really did it. And this, people forget that. They just give you slides and facts and figures, and they don't touch you where the pain is or where that emotion is. So
yeah, I tell people in the room, I says, where does it hurt?
Yeah.
Where does it hurt? And how can I fix your boo-boo? And and you laugh, but I've had CEOs break out in laughter about that.
Yeah.
I go, is the boo-boo here? It is. Okay, great. We'll fix that. And it's understanding, when do you need to be serious? Where do you need some levity? When do you need to, when do you need to lean in? When do you need to lean back? And it's not just the words coming out of your mouth. Storytelling is a 5 sense activity, because people are listening with 5 senses. You need to be able to use all 5 senses. You need to be able to get them to be able to hear, to see, to feel, to touch, and to be able to sit there and say, okay, they understand me. They're not pitching this person to someone. They're pitching it to me. And they've taken my needs into consideration. And that's what a great story does.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You are speaking my language, Mr. Ben.
There we go.
So, what are some of the common traits that you find of clients that come to you that really need your help? Things you see over and over again.
I think that a lot of people, the first word I hear from people is, we're stuck. Yeah, we're stuck, or we're going backwards. And, we deal a lot with internal communication. And they could be having a revolving door at the HR, in the HR department. They, the tenure of people is just abysmal. They can't get alignment amongst their executives. They're sit there, it says the Oklahoma office just doesn't understand what we need from them. We want to get from $20 to $40 million, but we just can't get over that hump. There's a million different things that people come to me for, because a story is about solving problems. It's not telling a story for a story's sake. You tell a story because it helps to solve a problem. It helps people get from A to B to C to D to Q, and be able to enable people to cross those bridges and cross those chasms. And we all have our own chasm within our company, whether you're a company of one person or you're a company of 10,000 or 50,000. And they're going to be different.
Yeah.
And people come to me when they're stuck. And more than anything, they're just stuck, and they don't know where the next step is to go. And we tend to go beyond the story. We because I have 30 plus years in business, I understand corporations. I understand process. I understand procedure. I understand people, because it's all interrelated. They don't operate in silos.
Yeah.
And we need to understand that our companies are not segmented silos. It's a group of human beings that interact and engage. And when they're not engaging, and when they're not interacting, and when they're not listening to each other, that's when we get stuck.
Yeah.
And my job is to unstick them.
Yeah. You always have like IT versus marketing, or
and everybody knows best, because it's not that they don't listen. It's just the fact that they feel that their agenda is more important than everybody else's, because this is what they've been tasked with.
Yeah, right.
IT has been tasked with this because they've been tasked with this. That's obviously the most important thing.
Yeah.
Marketing's been tasked with this, so obviously that's the most important thing. Sales, operations, finance, you name it. They've all been given a certain task, so they assume and they build their budgets and their processes, their procedures, and their communication around what we do is the most important thing in the company. And it's not. It's how all those things interact and how all those things help take care of the customer.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
Yeah.
And we forget that as organizations.
Yeah, that is true, especially if you're driven by Wall Street and you take your eye off of the real thing, which is the customer.
Yes. And then the question is, if you're driven by Wall Street, is your customer the people that you're selling goods and services to, or is it the people that are buying stocks?
Yeah.
And you need to make that decision, because you're going to run your company completely differently depending on what you believe your most important customer is.
So what are some ways we might fall or be failing in the internal communication, in those various groups you just discussed?
I think we don't listen to each other. And I'm going to look at it on a societal thing as much as a company thing.
That's true.
We tend, in a lot of cases, feel that it's more important to prove somebody else wrong than for us to be right. And we need to get away from that.
Yeah.
As organizations, as human beings, as governments, as whoever, we tend to sit there and say, as long as they're miserable, I'm happy. As long as they don't get what they want, I basically succeeded. And it's not enough for me to get what I want. I need to get what I want, and I also need somebody else to fail. And we need to move beyond it. And that's a cultural fix.
Yeah.
That's a cultural fix. And that's a big part of what we do with communication. Is a lot of cultural things. It's a lot of belonging. It's a lot of purpose. It's a lot of mission and vision, and getting people to believe that no one department is more important than the other. And, quite honestly, budgets throw that into things. The assignments people get, how close you sit to the CEO at the boardroom table has a lot to do with that. Who's the first person that's always listened to in a conversation? Which departments are neglected, and which departments actually get get the ear of the president or the CEO? All those things lead to how other people see you.
Yeah.
And whether you're the redheaded stepchild or whether you're the golden child, And once we can break that down and sit there and say, listen, if all departments are not functioning together, then we're not making as much money as we should.
Yeah.
And we're not serving our customers as well as we should. And we're not elevating our brand as well as we should. And that takes a lot of effort.
I was just going to say, and cultural change is not an overnight thing. You know, it's a longer process. Can't be one and done.
No, and that's the thing is a lot of customers says, well, how long is this going to take?
Yeah.
And I go, I don't know.
Yeah.
I could fix you in a week, or I could fix you in 5 years.
Yeah. Got to figure out.
A lot of it comes down to you. And they said, well, can you fix my people? I go, no, you're part of your people. You as the CEO. See, that's the thing is leaders always assume it's somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
And, whether dealing with middle management, wherever, it says, can you fix my team? I go, well, you're part of that team.
Yeah.
And if you're not part of the solution, you are the problem.
Yeah. That's a great point. Everybody should be listening to that because it is so very true. Trust me. 40 years, I know. Okay. So as a project manager, I had found that there were a hurdle many business process owners struggled with change management. And so I'd like for you to share a bit about your client onboarding and alignment methodology for change management.
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of things with change management. I mean, change management is about getting people to understand what the promised land is. Yeah. Because the problem is too many people focus on the plan and not on the goal. And they focus on the plan, and as soon as the plan gets a hiccup, people say, oh, they throw up their, obviously this didn't work, we'll go back to ground zero. Well, no, if you focus on the goal, what are we trying to achieve? Why are we trying to achieve it? What can we do then that we can't do now? How is this going to benefit people both individually and as a corporation? What happens if we don't achieve the goal, and what are the ramifications of that? If we understand that, and then we build plans to sit there to reach the goal, if all of a sudden the plan fails because guess what? We got punched in the mouth. We just sit there and say, okay, that plan doesn't work. Now let's go to plan B. All right, now let's go to plan C. We're still focused on the goal. We're still focused on where we need to be. We're not focused on the plan.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. When I'm building a change management, plan for people, when I'm first getting people involved with change management, it's about sitting there going, what are we truly trying to do?
So going back to that story.
Exactly. Where do we want to be? Why do we want to be there? Like, seriously, why do you want to go through this much pain and aggravation? I tell a great story. My dad was in the commercial renovation business. He used to make enormous messes of 40,000 and 60,000 square foot stores, like tear them apart, rebuild them. And he would come up to the team, because he'd have 600 employees in one of these stores at any given time. And he'd say, look, I've been working for your parent company for 20 years. I'm going to tell you what I tell everybody else. We're going to make a great big mess. And you're somewhere during this thing, you're going to hate us. But I'll tell you something. At the end, we're going to work hard together. We're going to do a lot of late nights. We're going to, get frustrated together. But we're going to have a brand new, gorgeous store at the end that both you and your customers are going to be really proud to walk into and be part of. Who's with me? And when you create that, all of a sudden you bring everybody together. You build a sense of belonging. It's everybody against a single problem instead of everybody against each other.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I think that's where we need to start. That's where we need to start this whole process, because when we do, all of a sudden the problems don't become so insurmountable.
Right. And it really, if we go back to, you're trying to improve your brand to make sure that it meets the ever-changing customer needs. And sometimes you do have to tear everything down and start fresh.
Sometimes you need to tear a brand down to do that. I mean, I've got 30 years of brand experience about me. I mean, your brand is not your avatar. It's not the logo. If people are looking at this on a video, it's not the thing that's to the left of me. That's just a reminder of what my brand is. My brand is what people say about me when I'm not in the room. Thank you, Jeff Bezos. That's a Jeff Bezos quote. It's your brand is only as valuable as your unhappiest employee on their worst day.
Oh, that's good.
That's one of my favorites.
That is good. Well, this has been really great. Time has flown by. I think I'm going to squeeze in a couple more questions.
Sure.
You and I both do podcasting, and I love podcasting. I think it's the best networking in the world because I get so much quality time with awesome people like you.
Mm-hmm.
But how has podcasting helped you in your business? For 30 years now that you've been doing this.
Yeah, I've been podcasting for 30 years. I'm sorry, for 11 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I've been at this for a little while. I have met some of the most incredible people. I've been blessed to have some fairly large names on my show. And what I've done is I learned from them, each and every single one of them. Each and every single one of them teaches me something during the 35 or 45 minutes I spend with them. And for me, that's gold.
Yeah.
Number two, thankfully, I have very loyal listeners who email me and ask me questions and, say, hey, what about this? Or what about that? Or what about the other thing? And it's led to some really great business associations.
Wow.
And I've also had people that said, listen, I've been listening to your show for 3 years. We've just broken off our relationship with our long-term supplier. I'd really like you to come in and have a conversation with us. Now, can I tell you that that's happened more than 5 times in 11 years? No. But those experiences have been large and protracted and been meaty clients that I didn't have to sell a thing to.
Yeah.
They already knew, like, and trusted me. There was no selling. There was no discounts. There was no bargain basement. And they paid me on time, and they already understood from listening to me what I put up with, what I didn't, how I worked, what type of questions I asked, how I treated my clients. And it enabled me to build those shortcuts to have the better relationships with the clients I have.
Awesome. So much good advice you're giving these folks here. It's great. If you all have enjoyed this as much as I have, and you want to do just as he just said, get in contact with him. I have a slide, as always, for you to be able to take a screenshot. If you are just listening, you know the drill. You should have had a paper and pencil from the very beginning taking notes. But if not, you can go to my YouTube channel and subscribe, or go to findyourleadershipconfidence.com and get all this information.
If you have any questions, you want to get in touch with me anytime, go through yourbrandmarketing.com.
Awesome.
All my free ebooks are there. Links to my podcasts are there. All my thought leadership pieces are there. My consulting pages, all of our services are there. And it links to our LinkedIn, it links to our Twitter, it links to my YouTube page.
Perfect.
So everything is just sitting there at yourbrandmarketing.com.
Perfect. You just saved me from that. That gave you some time to get that screenshot. If not, you need to do so right now. Well, Ben, it has been just a pleasure chatting with you. I'm sure that I'll have you back and we can talk about some other things, maybe leadership for a little bit.
Absolutely.
Have a great conversation about leadership, another area I love chatting about. So again, everyone, if you have not done, you see right there, his website is right on the screen for you, yourbrandmarketing.com. As always, I remind everyone that life is a journey and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.